indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Evening, everybody. Have a roll call, please.
Director Asen.
Here.
Director Moeller.
Here.
Director Sartorius.
Here.
Director Suda.
Here.
Vice President Staten.
Here.
President Cuneo.
Here. All right. Dr. Pendergast, Wendy, would you come to the podium, please? Thank you. And wipe that smile. Oh, keep that smile. Yeah.
Well, I have the pleasure this evening of recognizing tonight, we are all happy as your ELT and board to honor Superintendent Dr. Michael Macklin. He was recently featured in the Newsweek for his outstanding leadership and transformative impact that he has on this district. I'm not sure if you remember, we're kind of riding the ship right now. So it's because of his riding the ship that Dr. Macklin has worked to stabilize our district with finances and also to reinforce with his unwavering ways the focus on student success, which is why we are all here. This recognition underscores Dr. Macklin's commitment to empowering over 23,000 students in collaboration with our 22 partner districts. His forward thinking and his leadership exemplifies the values of his excellence and commitment to the innovation and drive of our district. So if you would, please join us celebrating Dr. Michael Macklin's remarkable achievement and his dedication to the success of our students in this community.
All right, thank you, everybody. And thank you, Dr. Mack.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hopefully, you will stay for a long time. All right, public comments. I forgot, there's one other thing here. I am proud to celebrate Dr. Macklin for his feature in Newsweek. One of the things that wasn't said. I also want to mention, no district funds were used to cover costs related to this education series. I know this falsely reported at some point that there were none. I want that to be on record here. Dr. Macklin, again, thank you for your dedication.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate the round of applause here. I would say that who are in this room, to the students and families, and our teaching staff, operational instructional staff, it's really a testament to the work that goes on every single day. That leadership matters. However, many years ago, I was told that a man or woman who has no one following them is just a person on a long walk. And so at the end of the day, appreciate the work that is everyone's doing. Thank you.
All righty. Public comments. We have no public comments because we're going to have somebody speak. Yeah, I see you. It's your laughing. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the consensual items?
So second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next to the superintendent's report.
Great. We will have 3 presentations this evening. First, we will be hearing from Special Education Foundation's Executive Director, Tim Eby, who will come and grace the podium now. Tim Eby, I see that you have guests with you who are there. So I will allow you to introduce your guests.
Great. Mount Rushmore in the back. Our 3 board members, great SEF board members, Julia Burke, Dr. Julia Burke, who is our board chair. Next to her is Shannon Benedek, our program and communications manager that works very closely with a lot of the SEC administration and staff to get our programs running and find the money to or spend the money that we try to raise. And Sardell Nordella, Dr. Nordella, who is a new board member with us, and also Alan Holmquist is with us, a board member as well. And Alan actually has a daughter, Elise, who is an SSD teacher in the Parkway District. So we're happy to have them here, and thank you folks for taking the time to chat. All right, let's bring up a PowerPoint, and good evening. First, thank you, President Cuneo and Vice President Staten, Dr. Macklin, and members of the board for this opportunity to talk about what's happening with the Special Education Foundation. I appreciate the additional time. Now, I have been the executive director of SCF for nearly 3 years, and all right, working. Go ahead and forward to the next slide. Stand by. Well, I have, while we're getting that set up, I've been the executive director with the foundation now for nearly 3 years. I started in April of 2022. And rarely a day or a few days go by that we don't hear stories about the positive impact that our partnership with the special school district has on the lives of students, families, and educators in the SSD community. Could you go back one more slide? Let's see if I can. Oh, okay, there we go. This is our mission, and our mission is really in alignment with what SSD's mission is in terms of to students the opportunity to succeed. We do this in ways that are not supported by tax dollars. We do not receive any direct funding from SSD or other government agencies. And just as SSD is unique in the world of education, the Special Education Foundation is as well, as we really focus entirely on helping students with disabilities, which is so unusual and unlike most education foundations that support public school. Go ahead and go to the next slide. This is the folks who actually get the work done. I am lucky enough to lead this organization, but we have a great team of people, 3 full-time staff in total. I introduced Shannon, who is our programming and communications manager. Jill Salinas, unfortunately, could not be here. She is our events manager, and we have 3 contract staff that do a whole lot of work regarding the golf tournament, our Fred Son leadership programming, and Mary Steinow, who is great to raise money for us, and our terrific board of directors, and that led by Dr. Burke, who provides an oversight to really help this organization run. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. SEF celebrated our 40th anniversary in 2024, and it was a great year for us. We assisted more than 8,000 students across St. Louis County with various programs. We started 2 new programs that help students on the autism spectrum learn social skills and have brought arts into the classroom through our SEF Presents program. And I'm sure you know that there are many teachers, in fact, most educators, teachers, use their own dollars to pay for projects in the classroom. Well, our Classroom Innovation Grant Program tries to offset that burden by providing grants for innovative projects for their students. And we provided 89 such grants to educators in 2024. And while we're committed to helping all students and educators in the SSD community, we're particularly committed to helping those schools, the SSD schools and educators. And that's why we have invested at least $75,000 in grants directly to SSD schools and educators. Next slide, please. I want to share with you one story about our Autism Independence Project. It's a project that we partner with iSocial, which uses evening Zoom sessions to help neurodiverse individuals with social skills development in cohorts of 6 like-minded students. It's an additive program to support students receiving services from SSD. iSocial has proven effective in helping neurodiverse children and adults through 17 separate university studies. Last year, SEF received $15,000 in funding to pilot this program. And so far, we've had 13 students participating since last summer. The program is led by iSocial, who bring in licensed professionals to lead these sessions, 32 one-hour sessions for the students over Zoom, taking over 16 weeks. One of those students is Kensley, a 5th grader in the Lindbergh School District. And from the words of her parents that you can see on the screen, you can see the impact that this program has had on this particular student and her family. Next slide, please. One of the other new programs that we brought to students and the schools this year is bringing dance, theater, and music to SSD schools through our SEF Presents program. Here at SEF, we believe that giving access to the arts is crucial for students with disabilities because it provides a unique avenue for self-expression, communication, and personal development. The arts often allow them to excel in a way that may not be possible through traditional academic methods, boosting their self-esteem, social skills, and overall well-being while fostering a sense of inclusion and belonging within the community. It also helps develop important cognitive and motor skills through creative and great engagement. Well, including last year and into this school year, we have or will be funding 19 performances of music, dance, and theater to SSD schools and students, including an upcoming jazz performance at the SSD-operated Juvenile Justice Center School. Our partners for this project include the St. Louis Symphony, Opera Theater, Jazz St. Louis, Metro Theater, the Black Rep, and Springboard to Learning. Next slide, please. And our Classroom Innovation Grant Program, which by far has the most widespread impact of all of our programs, serving more than 7,000 students with those 89 grants that we provide. Those grants come in sizes from $200 to $1,500. We awarded about $65,000 in those 89 grants, and for the current school year, we've had participation from every SSD school and partner district, except for Bayless, Hancock, and Southview School. We hope that we'll get those folks involved in the coming years. The Eat the Rainbow program, which I'm sharing with you on the screen, is just one of dozens of innovative ideas that SSD educators bring to us every year through this program. And I want you to just take a look at those students. They're trying new foods. And we had a chance to visit these kids, and the teachers and the kids were both just experimenting with new foods through colors. And it was just a wonderful thing to see, just innovative ideas from these teachers. Next slide, please. Our critical needs program is also something I think that is so important for us to maintain, because we worked with Adrian England and the SSD Family and Community Engagement Department on filling unmet needs of our students and families. This includes our winter coat drive, which ended earlier this month, that helped us raise money and put coats on 149 students. We provided graduation supplies for dozens of students, as well as uniforms for some of our VSP students. With the support of Cardinals Care, we helped 140 families with food kits during winter, spring, and summer break to overcome food insecurity that exists throughout the county. And we helped raise funds to stock the SSD care closets in schools throughout St. Louis County with personal care items for students. Next slide. Our adaptive equipment and audiology programs are both helping students in various ways. Our adaptive equipment program received renewed funding this year from the Tillis Foundation and assists dozens of students who are aging out of SSD with assistive communication devices that SSD provides when those students are in school. When they leave school, they lose access to those devices. So we purchase those devices for students who can't afford them. Things like iPads or other more expensive communications devices through our adaptive equipment program. And we've helped more than 70 students with audiology support in 2024, ranging from hearing aids, replacement ear molds, and items such as vibrating alarm clocks for students who just can't hear an alarm clock, but that vibration will wake them up in the morning. Late last year, we received a major grant from Olympia Gymnastics to support this program, and next month, we'll be conducting our annual Arbeiter Gift of Sound fundraising campaign, which includes a raffle where a lucky winner will receive a package that includes more than $2,500 in gift cards and the chance to throw out the first pitch before a 2025 St. Louis Cardinals game at Busch Stadium. $25 a ticket, 5 tickets for $100. Gotta throw that. Next slide. Our scholarships and leadership program both are essential towards helping high school students. Last year, SEF awarded $28,500 to students receiving SSD services. We're so grateful to Emerson for supporting our John Kerry Scholarship Program. This year, we'll offer an additional scholarship to a graduating senior who participated in our Fredside Leadership Academy in honor of the late Jane Vickery. Jane passed away last year. She was a longtime board member and volunteer with SEF and was very involved in our leadership program. And this spring, we'll be awarding a $5,000 scholarship to one of our leadership graduates moving on beyond high school. These scholarships will be awarded at the Inspiring Futures event, a partnership with SEF and SSD, on Tuesday, April 29th at 6 p.m. at the St. Louis County Library Lindbergh branch. I know many of you will be there. And we're celebrating 20 years of our Fredside Leadership Program, our high school leadership program for students who receive SSD services. This year, this year-long program is life-changing for these students, giving them experiences they would never have at their home schools. The students will be making their annual visit to the state capitol in Jefferson City later this winter, and their graduation ceremony is taking place on Wednesday, May 7th at 7 p.m. at Emerson Auditorium at St. Luke's Hospital. We hope to see all of you there if you can. Also, one note around our Fredside Leadership Academy, our longtime coordinator and former SSD administrator, Debbie Smith, will be retiring at the end of the school year. We're so grateful for Debbie's years of service in leading this program, and we brought on Matt Mulring, currently coordinator with the VSP program, to lead that program for us in the future. Next slide. And finally, our Kid to Camp program. This past year, SEF provided financial support for 28 students to attend camp during school breaks in the winter, spring, and summer. The two quotes that you see from the parents provide a good sampling of the positive impact this program has on students and their families. Next slide. Go ahead, next slide, please. And finally, because I attend these meetings, I hear a lot of talk about money. Same thing goes with SEF. We have to raise the money to spend the money. And I want to share with you a couple of slides just talking about the revenue that comes in. The revenue that SEF raises, we're so grateful from the community supporting our mission. A large percentage of our support comes from two major events. Oh, could you go back one slide? I think you're this one. There we go. A large percentage of our support comes from our two major events. Our newest event, the Starfish Awards, takes place in June, and our charity golf tournament in October. We also rely heavily on program-specific grants that are essential for us to provide the services that we offer to students, families, and educators. And the individual support that we receive from the community is also vital and important as part of our revenue mix. Next slide, please. And then this breaks it down a little bit more by the corporate support. About 45% of our funding comes from corporations. Other individuals providing a little more than a quarter of our total revenue. And we also receive great support from foundations. Our board of directors provides well over 5%, and SSD staff makes wonderful contributions to our organization as well through payroll deduction and other means in supporting SEF. So we're so grateful for the support that SSD staff and all of the community provides to us. Next slide, please. And looking ahead, we have a new program we're rolling out this year. We are excited to roll out the Mobility Project. I think I may have talked to the board about this in previous public comment sessions. But we're excited about this new initiative because it will be aimed at enhancing independence and improving interaction with the environment and peers for students with physical disabilities. And it really helps these students because what we're looking to try to do is put 2 power wheelchairs into SSD schools, allowing students the opportunity to learn to use and operate these chairs. With that experience, then families can, of these students can turn to insurance companies for assistance in purchasing a device for the students, since one of the qualifying prerequisites is that the student must know how to operate the device. And how do they learn to operate it if they don't have access? This program will give them that access. We're also looking and excited about expanding the Autism Independence Project to more students to further their social skills. And finally, much of our focus at SEF is on investing in our dollars into supporting students, families, and educators who need the most. Students and educators in the Tier 2 and Tier 3 partner districts, as well as the SSD schools. That's our primary emphasis. And I'd love to answer any questions. Next one.
Questions, anyone?
I think the only question I have is like, well, of course, thank you for the work that you all do. Outside of giving ourselves, what other ways can we support the advancement of SEF's work?
I think the biggest thing is name recognition, pushing to folks who have kids that receive SSD services, certainly to those administrators, to spread the word to the folks that are on the front line dealing with students so that they are aware. One of the things that we find is a lot of times these folks at districts, and particularly under-resourced districts, sometimes just don't have the time to talk to us to apply for funding. We want to try to provide that opportunity so that we can hear from these tier 3 schools that need that help. And we want to provide the support for those students, for those educators in those districts. That's a real emphasis for us. And I think just spreading the word about what we're doing is critical. But money always helps too.
Speaking of money, I'm curious. How are you going to spread it seems your corporate donors, you have good sports donors, you have some of the biggest names in Dan McLaughlin, and wonderful here. But what about businesses? I saw Boeing's name on there. What about others?
Yeah, I mean, corporate philanthropy is an interesting piece. One of the pieces that we're looking at trying to do, and it's the folks that are in the back here, is growing our board. We have our board is made up right now with 16 individuals. We can go as high as 24. And one of the things we're really looking for is to attract board members who are connected to these companies, the Edward Joneses, the Centenes, the Bears, those companies in town, the Worldwide Technologies. We would love to be able to get executives and leaders in those companies on our board of directors. And a lot of times, President Cuneo, that will lead to that funding if we have those connections. So growing our board is a critical piece.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for all you do. All right. That. Now we go from Kevin. Kevin, the stage is yours. Thank you.
All right, good evening, President Cuneo, Vice President Staten, Board of Directors, Dr. Macklin. My name is Kevin Ander. I'm the Chief of Technical Education and District Operations. Different presentation, Mark, we're almost there. So not career technical education calendar first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I see they were ready.
I know they were ready to roll. They're like, oh, I guess we're going right now. All right, so this is an update on the 2025-2026 calendar. All right, so in the calendar, we have 190 days for staff. What that includes 173 days with students. That allows us to have 4 snow days banked. That's a part of a change on state statute to make sure that we get our maximum amount for weighted ADA. We need to have 169 student attendance days. So by having 173, that'll give us 4 banked snow days, which if you have a year like this year, it's helpful to have some banked snow days. That includes 13 professional development days for our staff. We typically front load those professional development days in August as we gear up for the start of the school year. 4 paid holidays. Some key considerations that we have in the calendar is we want to do the best that we can to align with our partner districts. Our calendar is never going to be an apples to apples match to 22 districts, but our big 3 things that we try to align with are winter break, spring break, and professional development days when possible. We used to have on that list the first day of school, but now that there's been some changes to statute, pretty much everybody has the first day of school. So that hurdle has already been solved. And now those are the 3 things that we really try to work towards alignment. Our feedback process, we have a calendar committee that's got representation from district administration as well as our union bargaining groups. And we also receive feedback from our staff, our faculty, our community, and our families to really figure out what are the key considerations in our calendar. Keeping in mind, trying to align with partner districts is that recurring theme that we hear from all those audiences. It's just easier for families if everything's kind of aligned as much as we can. So a draft version of our 25-26 calendar went to the board for approval in spring of 2024. At that point, not many of our districts had a calendar out yet. So we this fall did a deep dive comparing all of the calendars that have been approved and made a few tweaks to better align with our partner districts. So a couple revisions you're going to see. One is the document itself. The overall format of the calendar that we've used in years past is not very easy to read. It was not family friendly. It was not staff friendly. It was trying to be all things to all people, and we really weren't serving any audience well. So now you're going to see that we're submitting 2 calendars for approval. One is a family student calendar, and then the other is a staff calendar. Because there's information that staff needs that families don't, and vice versa. So making sure people aren't getting more information overload, and instead having something easier for them to read. We adjusted the timing of our fall break. We moved it back 1 week to better align with our partner districts. We were the only ones that had it the week that we picked. By moving back, we aligned with most districts who are doing a fall break. We also adjusted our October professional development day. I think everyone saw that Halloween is on a Friday this year and said, that looks like a really good day for a PD day. So we're following suit with the rest of the districts and following that lead and moving our October PD day to align with partner districts. We also adjusted in January. January 2nd is now a teacher staff workday. We needed to move a workday around in the calendar, and this is ensuring that we're going to be done before Memorial Day, which is something we heard, especially from our teachers and staff, and also our families. They like to have that week off between the school year and ESY. This ensures we get that full week. And then we also adjusted our April professional development day, moving that to April 17th. On the screen, you can just see a quick side-by-side of the old version of the calendar, which was the one-sheeter that was, you had to use the key to decode what do the boxes mean, versus the new calendar, which is much more text-oriented. So students and families, as well as our staff, can clearly see what's happening on the day and gives us some room for description of, does this apply to all students, some students, does this apply to all staff, 10-month staff, and so forth. So that's kind of the new version versus the old version of the calendar that was being submitted for approval tonight. Questions?
Questions? Go on.
Districts allow virtual days if you go over your snow days. Are you able to do that?
Yeah, so the alternative methods of instruction that's permitted by the state applies to us as well. So we've got, in addition to those 4 banked snow days, we have 36 hours of alternative methods of instruction, virtual instruction, which equates out to about 6 school days. So that gives us, between the banked snow days and AMI, about 10 days in the bank before we have to look at starting to make days.
How is this given to the parents and what form?
Yeah, so it's going to be followed most part through their schools. So once the calendar is approved, our schools share those calendars with their families. So you saw the student family calendar that's going for approval tonight. That calendar then gets adapted for each individual school. So South Views will say Southview at the top, and North Techs will say North Tech at the top, and so forth. But that version is then sent home to families. It's posted on their website. And then this large district master calendar is also on our website.
I was just wondering, and maybe, I clearly am not techy. Can you make that in there? That would be so nice to
Yeah,
put on
so-
somebody's phone.
Yeah, so if families in our schools, we do have our focused student information system, which does have a family parent portal, which if they do that, then the calendar is accessible in the app, where they'll be able to see upcoming days off and those types of things. Not saying that every family member is using our app, but if they do choose to use it, they do have that at their fingertips.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you for making this so much more beautiful.
As a person someone who should bookmark their child's school calendar on their browser, but ends up Googling in our calendar. Just wondering if there's going to be any kind of effort to make sure that parents don't accidentally reference the staff calendar. For their students and get confused about when, schools open.
Yeah, and so that's something that we try to make it clear at the top which one is which, but that is something that communications is working through to make sure that the student-facing calendar is the thing that comes up first.
Yeah, I want to thank you also. I appreciate the alignment with the other districts. I think that's an effort. I know it's happening beyond SSD. I believe that's an effort among lots of districts in the county. So I think that's very helpful for a lot of reasons. I also want to compliment the readability. And I've been on many calendar committees in my day. And I think this looks like a good cadence for our calendar. I think it's set up nicely to meet student needs and staff needs. I do want to ask you a question about the 173 student attendance days. It's not technically days that we need to have, it's technically hours, and then our hours are just distributed among 173 days.
So yes, and.
Yes, and, okay.
So with Senate Bill 727 that passed last legislative cycle, they created an incentive to have a 5-day school week. So to have that, you need to have 169 attendance days. So for us to get the maximum ADA reimbursement as a district, we have to have at least 169. If we drop below 169, then we're going to get a reduction in what we receive in ADA.
I was not aware of that change.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling us about it.
And do also want to say the readability of the calendar. A big shout out to Janica Shear in our communications department. She helped us pull calendars from all over Missouri, and we put them all on a table and picked out the one that we thought was easiest to read and then replicated that.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Don't leave.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, now,
Hey.
all right, now, technical education schools, please.
Good evening again. And joining me with this for this presentation, I have with me Emmanuel Young, who is our principal of North Tech, and Dr. Jacob Losey, who is our principal of South Tech. We will be providing a career and technical education update for the board this evening. So this slide here we presented in years past just gives you the breakdown of which of our partner districts feed into which of the technical high schools. So you can see the split between North Tech, South Tech, and then just as a reminder, our adult education programming is open to any adult learner. They do not have to be a resident of St. Louis County. So we're doing a little bit of breakdown of North Tech and South Tech by the numbers. This is data that you've seen in years past. So you can see North Tech and South Tech. Our student populations mirror the schools that they come from. North Tech predominantly African American, South Tech predominantly white. Keep in mind that does include our Bosnian and Russian populations in there as well. So we do have a little bit of a higher EL concentration at South. North Tech has about the same number of students with IEPs as what we see in our sending schools. South Tech's a little bit higher. We're about 26% of our students are students with IEPs at South Tech. Both schools are over 800 students in enrollment. South Tech at this snapshot was at 848, North Tech was at 821. This gives you the trend line of our enrollment year over year. And so as you can see, our enrollment has been steadily increasing. That is a result of improved student retention from the first year of our programs to the second year of our programs. So we are doing a better job keeping students at Tech. That's really a shout out to our faculty and our staff who are really trying to meet students where they are and making sure that students are successful in their classes. So we've returned to pre-pandemic levels of enrollment. And you can also see there the raw numbers are there on the screen for you to reference as well. Keeping in mind, at North Tech, that does include us where we had phased out a few programs. So we actually have fewer programs and about the same number of students as we did back in FY 2020. So that is a big shift. Our placement results, this is the class of 2023 because we're still putting a bow on our placement for the class of 2024. That'll be wrapped up here in the next week or so. But you can see the breakdown for North Tech and South Tech. The big thing to look at is that box of green on the bottom. This is the thing that we really want to hold ourselves to, is the percentage of our students who are moving on doing something related to what they studied at North Tech or South Tech. Specifically, is that college, is that employment? And both of our schools this past cycle were above 75% of our students moved on to do something related to the technical program that they did with us, which is something that we're really proud of. All right, so some celebrations and updates for 2024-2025. So overall for our high school programming, we have some key areas of focus. First is positive student outcomes. And within that, we're looking at graduate placement, which is that data we just looked at, our students moving on to do something related, be that work or college. Credential attainment, so students obtaining certifications, industry recognized credentials, and then work-based learning, us getting our students out of our classrooms and out into the world of work, be that internships, be that job shadowing, or be that on-site instruction and off-site locations. We really want to get our students out into the world of work. A couple other things that we had as priorities this year was implementing a revised admissions process. We really wanted to bring an equity lens to our admissions process. We used to have a process where students were evaluated on a rubric, and things like your GPA and attendance were really going to dictate whether or not a student was accepted to North or South Tech. Instead, we have embraced a lottery admissions process. So students have minimum criteria they need to meet, and then all students are entered into a lottery, and that determines who is accepted into our programming. We continue to maintain high expectations for our students. At the same time, we want to make sure that students have equitable access to the programs that we offer. Last piece is we're looking at ways, how do we increase opportunities for students to participate in our programming? We are seeing year over year that we have more students who are interested in accessing our programs than we have space to accommodate. I've challenged our principals, and we've had a number of meetings the last couple of months of what are things that we can do right now in this upcoming fiscal year? Are there places where we can increase our capacity so we can bring in more students? Where if we just bring in more furniture and technology that we can add students to classes? Are there ways that we can do creative things with our scheduling where we have some space in the afternoon that we could bring in additional students in the afternoon? And we found a number of ways through some small incremental changes that don't require hiring additional faculty or adding an additional lab that could allow us moving into next school year, bring additional students in. And we've identified for FY27 and FY28, what are some larger scale things that we can do to continue to grow that enrollment, ensure that we decrease the number of students on the wait list and more students getting access to what we're able to offer. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Young, who's going to provide the updates for North Tech.
All right, good evening, everyone. So I'm pleased to share our goals and priorities at North Technical High School. Our first bucket there is around instruction and assessment. Our goal is to develop a North Tech proficiency skill that can be used to assess students' workplace readiness skills. When we talk about our employers, what they want to know is, will the students show up on time? Will they be prepared for the world of work? All of those different things. So we're trying to put together a skill that really assesses that day to day in the classroom environment. One of the things we talk often about is looking the part, knowing the part, and being able to speak the part. Looking the part is making sure that they're wearing the right program apparel that aligns with industry. Knowing the part, that's the curriculum, the board-approved curriculum, I may add. And then being able to speak the part is a new extension for us, and that's with the introduction of our employability skills curricula, which we're going to continue to build out over the next couple of years. Our second bucket is around student engagement. Kevin alluded to this just a few minutes ago when he talked about work-based learning experiences. We have an internal goal that all of our programs will offer high-quality work-based learning experiences and post-secondary exposure opportunities. I'd like to take you back a couple of slides. I won't go there, but you can see that we have about 50% of our students that are going on to continue training and education. That's that post-secondary exposure piece. But then we also have a growing percentage of students that are going directly into the world of work. We believe it's really important that we expose students to everything that's out there, and then they can make an informed decision on the cusp of graduation. Student success. So 80% or more of our students, seniors who are part of the Perkins reporting cycle will earn an industry recognized credential or 2 stackable credentials. This is a goal that we had in previous academic years, but we upped the percentage because we feel like with the introduction of some new credentials that are available to our students, that we can get a higher percentage of our students earning these market value assets here. All right, celebrations. So I really don't have enough time to talk about all the wonderful things that are happening at North Tech. What I would say is come and see. But I will talk about 5 quick things that I've got here on the slides. So 1, we established professional learning communities. This is a new direction for us here at North Tech. Many schools are offering PLCs, and there are challenges being that many of our instructors are singletons. So we've really embraced the MS PLC model, they're working not only with other instructors in the building, which has helped to break down those silos or, oh, I teach auto, I'm only going to be with the auto instructors. We now have instructors working across programming and taking advantage of synergies that exist between the programming. What we've gotten out of that are some really cool initiatives, and it really also helped the district and our building from a budgetary standpoint. We realize that not every program needs to have set technology or set instructional material. We can buy one for the school and we can share it. So those are some of the things that have taken place out of that, along with some other innovative practices, which I'll hit on in just a second. I did also mention kind of that multi-school PLC model, because not only do they work with the instructors that are in the building, they also are getting out of our building, including on February 14th, where they're going to go to some other career centers and they're going to go and they're going to learn some best practices that are happening in other places and then bring those things back to our classroom. We do not suffer from the not invented here syndrome. We believe that good learning and good teaching is happening all across the area, and we want to go and get those best practices and bring them back to enrich the learning experiences for our students. Second piece here, this too is an extension of the PLC model. We have teachers piloting competency-based education. 2 teachers in particular I'd like to highlight, Ms. Alicia Shank, who is our zoology forensics instructor, so she's a science teacher, who works in conjunction with Ms. Amber Keller-Craig, who is our vet science teacher. Together, they went to a competency-based education summit at Rittner High School this summer, learned a lot about the model and got excited and started tinkering with their own curriculum. The big highlight for that, as I talk with them, they're saying things like, oh, this really challenged the way I teach. Now I'm trying to find new ways to assess student learning. Before, I may have just given this multiple choice test, but now I'm providing 5 or 6 opportunities for students to demonstrate mastery. Seems like that fits really well with our values here at SSD. I'm hearing other things, like I have students in my class who would have just been content with the B or C, but now they're being challenged to work harder. I hear things like the kids who are already performing really well are now going on to even more challenging content, which we call that 4.0 content, which is really exciting. So they're taking a deeper dive. That also connects with the work-based learning piece, because that provides the baseline criteria for the students going out to take internships and other extended work-based learning opportunities. So we're really excited about that. We are going to grow slowly with expanding competency-based education in our school. We anticipate another 4 to 5 teachers piloting it out in the upcoming academic year. But I am incredibly proud of their efforts and what they're doing, really being on the bleeding edge of CTE in our building. Point number 3, exposure to careers in continuing education, which I spoke on a few minutes ago. I'm really, really pleased with the learning experiences that our students have been having, going to all types of learning institutions. But not only going out, our instructors have been really creative. They've been bringing organizations in, like to highlight Mr. Pat Hannigan, who's also featured there as an Emerson Award winner. But he hosted an on-site construction competition in which he brought in industry partners and they judged our student work. That too is work-based learning, and we didn't have to spend money on buses to send students out. So we're really trying to be good stewards of our resources and be really creative in the way that we're reaching our goals while also being fiscally responsible. Like I said, there's so much more I can talk about, but I'm going to pass the mic to my esteemed colleague, Dr. Jake Losey.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm Dr. Losey, Jake Losey from South Technical High School. A couple things I want to cover with you all today is just first of all, thank you for letting me come and present to you. I'm very proud of our school and the folks that work there and the support that we provide for students. In past years, it's been very good for us to break our goals into 3 common categories. One is equity, second is climate and culture, and then third is student success. Our equity goal for the year is to make sure that we're improving communication with families and students. This year, we're identifying and reducing language barriers for our students. This is done by developing and providing training and tools to staff to reduce the barriers to use translation and interpretive services. One of the things that we're really trying to focus on is having our students feel more accepted rather than to have the students that fit. Acceptance over fit is very important to us because we want to make sure that because we're a county-wide school, that we are providing opportunities for all students in the county to come to us and feel valued in our spaces. And a lot of times we need help just communicating with them so that they understand what are some of the things that we can do to help them be successful in their careers and post-secondary lives. Second is climate and culture. So we are also focusing on professional learning communities. So our goal this year is to have 90% of our staff participate in staff-generated PLCs. We are meeting monthly, and then at the end of the year, we're working to have a showcase so that all of our PLCs can present out to the other groups to understand what we've learned and how we can improve our building. The thing that I really like about our PLCs is that, for the most part, all of our teachers are participating in a PLC that they've chosen. So it is really building-driven improvement because a lot of times I might see things from a high level, but our teachers who are doing things day to day, they really know the nuts and the bolts of our school and how we can help improve it. And so it's been really great to see them. Just as a quick point, I was in a staff meeting this last week and I mentioned a project that I was going to work on this semester, and that was looking at our internship projects and internships for students coming up in the 4th quarter. And I had one teacher turn around and say, "No, wait a minute, that's my PLC and we're working on this." So it was really great to see the buy-in that they had for that and to actually have me pump the brakes to make sure that I'm including them. And we had a great conversation about short-term versus long-term goals. It's really been a great move for us, collecting data, doing research, putting out projects into our schools and seeing what kind of improvement we can find. And then our third goal for student success is we would really like to see 15% of our SouthTech CTE concentrators, those are students that have been with us for at least 3 semesters, qualify for 6 of the 8 criteria for the Missouri CTE certificate. So you might be thinking, why aren't we qualifying for all 8 areas for the CTE certificate? SouthTech doesn't actually provide the CTE certificate to our students. It's provided by our partner schools. So as an example, Melville High School would give the CTE certificate based on some of their data and some of our data. And so I'm not in control of all areas, but I want to make sure that we are focusing on the things that we do have influence over, and we can influence at least 6 of 8. And some of the data that you might have seen, and some data that Mr. Andrew just provided is as a division for both North and South, I believe we're at about 11% of our students have already reached the CTE certificate. So if we're meeting most of those criteria, I believe 15% is within reach. The other thing that it provides us is a common criteria to gauge all of our programs. It's really hard to put our welding program up against our cosmetology program because all the data is not the same and similar. But when we start looking at our SouthTech attendance rates, when we start looking at their ability to meet or exceed the state average in some testing like our work keys or ACT, we can find some real good real world data within our school to compare all of our programs to help grow and be data informed as we're making decisions. Some celebrations that we have, I don't know if you heard, but SouthTech, we were voted by the Post-Dispatch readers for the 2nd year in a row as the area's best technical trade school. So that was a proud moment for us. We even made t-shirts that say back to back. I didn't come up with that, my staff did, but it's great. They're very proud of that work, as they should be, because we just do a lot of great things for our kids. And it was a wonderful evening spending time with Mr. Young and Mr. Andrew as we celebrated what CTE does. And for SSD, we're very proud of the work that we can do. Again, just like Mr. Hannikin, our instructor, Melissa Manis, who was last year's Teacher of the Year, she also won the Emerson Excellence in Teaching Award. So we're super proud of the things that she has done. And she's very indicative of what all of our programs do. One fun thing about Melissa is every time she wins something, I always get a text that day of like, hey, this is Melissa Manis, your Emerson Excellence teacher. Can I have this thing? And then I have to go have a talk with her about what she needs, which is also great. Our professional learning communities, like I said, are going very, very well. Our staff have really rallied around it, and some of our building improvement is really going to be focused over the next few years over these teams and how well these teams just drive the work that we're doing over and over. Our special education team, they are doing some incredible work on building some employability skills for our students. A couple of things that we'd like to have our students come out of is a common resume, possibly a portfolio, but a lot of those professionalism skills that a lot of employers are working on. How do you be on time? How do you present in an interview? How do you make sure that you're doing the skills and the job readiness categories that our employers would like to see? And that team is working very hard to help that. And then again, like I said, we're working on apprenticeship and internship improvements for the coming years. We would like to see as many of our students, especially that 4th quarter of their senior year, go out into internship. Because what that means is that we are maximizing what they're learning at SouthTech and then leaving it to industry to kind of close that loop on what those students need to know as they go out into the workforce. So those are SouthTech celebrations. Thank you very much.
All right, so continuing on, you can see why I brought them, because they can speak about their buildings with much more specificity than I'm able to. So a quick update on adult education as well, because that's a part of our current technical education programming. We have our applied technology program, which is our LPN program. We're one of 35 LPN programs in the state, yet we account for 7% of all new LPNs in the state of Missouri come through our program. In the past year, the LPN program was approved to increase to 35 students. That was a result of our move to North Tech. So that was a big gain for us. With bigger classroom space, we could bring in additional new nurses. It means we're going to be able to graduate 6 more additional nurses every year as a part of that program. Our NCLEX pass rate at this point is at 87.4%. We were right at 90% all the way into December, and then we had 2 students who were unsuccessful right there on New Year's Eve. Probably shouldn't have tested on New Year's Eve. Our placement rate right now for the program is 100%, so all 41 of our graduates who we were able to reach were all working in the industry. Then you have the current wage for LPNs as well. We're excited it continues to climb. $32 an hour is very much a livable wage for students who have come through our program. Our goals and priorities, so we're looking for an 80% or above completion rate. We recognize this is a nursing program. It is rigorous, it is hard, and not everyone is going to find the field of nursing is right for them, but our goal is to get to 80% completion rate, 80% first-time state board pass rate, 100% placement rate. Since we continue to hit that mark, we're going to keep the bar there at the top. And then expanding student support structures. How do we help solve all of the challenges our students face that are not happening in the classroom, but the world outside of the classroom that are serving as impact whether or not they're able to successfully complete our program. Most of our students are adult learners who have families at home. They might be trying to work full-time while they're in the program, but this is a life-changing opportunity for them. So how do we make sure we support that whole student? And then we're continuing to invest in professional development for our faculty because all of them came in as great nurses and then we're training them to be incredible faculty. And how do they meet every student where they are, knowing that our population continues to change? All right, some celebrations. So again, the NCLEX pass rate that I talked about. The increased student interest, the move to North Tech was absolutely the right move when we moved from the Met Center in Wellston, which was kind of far away from where our student population center was, to North Tech, where we're in Florissant now, easy highway access, incredible visibility. We are seeing dramatic increases in interest just because now we're easily accessible. We talked about increasing the class size, and then every year we host a career expo. That's both for our Applied Tech students as well as our North Tech and South Tech students. This past year's expo was the largest attendance that we had yet. Employers are clamoring for our students, both from the high school programs as well as our adult LPN program. All right, so now we're going to go over some MSIP monitoring report data. You've seen this at previous board meetings for other programs, so the layout should look familiar. For career and technical education, the first one, this is our high school-based programming. So you see our 3 indicators that we're tracking. That first one is percentage of our graduates placed related to their program of study. That number continues to climb up. We had a target of 60%. We far exceeded that at 77.7%. That's for North Tech and South Tech combined. Our 2-year retention rate, again, we had a goal of 70%, and we have for the past 2 years exceeded that goal. We are retaining students into that second year of the program, and they are reaching the point of completion. And then CTE certificate attainment, as Dr. Lozzi touched on, that includes 8 different areas. The student needs to have 95% attendance or above, a 3.0 GPA or higher in their career and technical education coursework. They're going to have a silver or better on the work keys assessment. They're going to need to earn an industry recognized credential, participate in 50 hours of work-based learning. That student's going to participate in career readiness through Skills USA. So there's a lot of domains and pieces that are a part of that CTE certificate. We like that as a metric because it really does measure that whole student. Are we reaching every area? And if we're hitting that mark, then we know that we are really preparing students for success. Across the state, you're seeing districts with looking at the 5 to 7% rate for students obtaining a CTE certificate. We are very proud that this past year we are at 11.7%. And we believe with the efforts we have in place, especially with the PLCs, that we're going to continue to drive that number higher. All right, and the next slide is the adult education side of the house. And so first-time state board pass rate, our goal is 90% is that target for the MSIP monitoring report. That's the same target set by the State Board of Nursing. Well, like I mentioned, we just narrowly missed that at 87.4%. That was 2 students. 2 students would have put us above the 90% threshold. Student completion rate, so we have a goal of 70% or above for the MSIP monitoring report. That was based off historical data, and we hit that goal. That move to North Tech definitely helped us being closer proximity, as well as some of those practices that we're having our faculty incorporate, one, to support the whole student, as well as those instructional strategies, are paying dividends and students being able to successfully complete the program. That we're able to make the material accessible and attainable for our students. And then job placement rate, we're continuing at 100%, so we're just gonna let that continue forward. It really speaks to the quality of our program and the instructors in the program that are preparing students to be ready to hit the ground running in the workforce. All right, that was a lot of career and technical education in a very tight window. What questions do you have for us?
I don't And I have a comment, and this is particularly for Dr. Lozzi and Mr. Young. I just feel like we have heard these presentations before, and typically it's like all of the, fluffy celebration things. People are doing great. Kids like it here. Amazing. I appreciate today that there was a specific focus on high quality instruction and how we're getting there. Right? Like, I want to believe y'all are doing great things through the celebrations, but I also want to see the very intentional pointed things like we're doing PLCs, like we're partnering with other centers. We are intentionally focusing on competency-based learning. We're going to conferences, bringing that back and implementing, right? Like, I want to see that intentionality around high quality instruction. So thank you. Please remember that in the future.
Absolutely.
Yes,
No.
I'd like to thank you also, and it's just, your enthusiasm and your pride are evident. It's great to see the pride you have in your work. And I had a lot of the same comments that, Vice President
teachers
State
in it.
had. So yes, just really happy to see the competency-based education, happy to see the self-directed PLCs, really liking those measurable, things for our students. I have a couple questions actually. One of them is a smaller question. Back to the very beginning with North Tech and South Tech. I think it's slide 2 or something. It shows the schools that we serve. North Tech serves fewer schools than South Tech. Are they serving 50% of the county population?
So
Each school, how are we?
yeah, that's a really good question. So we've historically used essentially Page Avenue as our dividing line. And that's been set for a while. The part of our rub is if you look at expanding the North Tech footprint, then you'd be splitting the Parkway District, would be kind of the next place. And for continuity for the district, we found it was easier to have the whole district go to one location as opposed to splitting a district between centers. At one point in time, we looked at Parkway North, having that feed to North Tech. That would balance it out a little bit. On the South Tech list, you do have a number of smaller districts, Bayless, Afton, Valley Park, Brentwood. So especially when you put them list-wise, side by side, North Tech still does have some large districts. Hazelwood is a large district, Ferguson Florissant with multi-high school. So it does balance out a little bit, but North Tech does serve a slightly smaller population than South Tech.
I wondered, I thought that was the case, thank you.
Yeah.
And then I've got a bigger question, and I don't think you can answer this tonight. But we look at the demand for this kind of programming and the number of students who would benefit from access. And my question is, as I said, it's a bigger one. How is this funded? Where would all of the funding come from to expand programming? I know space is a concern. I know there are state monies, and I don't know what other monies are involved. So if we could get, I don't know if you have that off the top of your head.
So I can give you a little bit, and then I can absolutely provide you more information. Because we do claim ADA on the students who come to us. It's a prorated ADA because they're not with us all day. So it's a 0.43 of average daily attendance. And then there are some CTE specific revenue streams that we receive as well. There's CTE based funding, which is based off of how many credits students earn and how many certified faculty we have. And then you have CTE performance funding, which is based off of our graduate follow-up data. So there is some variance to the performance funding depending on the placement results for our student. Performance funding is based off of the students who are place related, which again is why we put that emphasis on are you doing something related, because it's directly tied to CTE performance funding. There have been in the recent past some state grants that we've been able to tap into for capital improvements. Those dollars have varied from year to year. This past year, we were able to access one. In this last budget, they set aside about $5.7 million for capital improvements. And so the renovation for electrical trades at South Tech this past year, we were able to offset more than 50% of that cost through that grant. So that was a big boon for us. The challenge is every year it depends on the legislature allocating funds for that. So in the 10-year facility plan, we want to queue up as many shovel-ready projects as possible. So that way, if grant dollars come available, we're not trying to figure out, oh, this grant's available now, what do we want to do? That we see this amount of money is available, what do we have queued up that we can go on pretty quickly? Because you have to do the entire project in that upcoming fiscal year. So like the grant that we did for electrical trades, the reason we were able to do that is we already had electrical trades in the hopper ready to go, and then we could tap into those grant dollars to get us through the cycle because everything has to be spent by May. So It does put us in a tight window. But that is something that we're looking into in that 10-year facility plan, or where are there places that we can have state funds offset the cost that we have tied to capital improvements. Because the challenge is many of our shop renovations, if you're going to do it with fidelity, knowing what code is now, electrical infrastructure upgrades, take the welding shop, for example, that renovation at each school was close to $1 million when it was all said and done. But it was because we're taking a facility from the 1960s and needed to bring it forward 5 decades, and that required a lot of infrastructure changes. Now, we won't have to redo those shops for a very long time, but they are state-of-the-art for the time being. But it is a pretty substantial upfront cost for some of those spaces. Now, some of our programs that might take place in a traditional classroom, take web and computer programming or graphic design, there's a little bit less cost with expansion of those types of programs. But when you look at some of the ones that we have a lot of interest in, like automotive technology, there is a pretty substantial upfront cost to add a space. And that's the other barrier we have, is where can we house these things? And so we're looking, kind of teeing up the presentation here again in April, is we're trying to incorporate as much of that into that 10-year facility plan, of if there's ways that we better use district resources, can we free up space to give us the real estate to expand some of those programs that we don't currently have space available in our existing footprint.
Great, so you'll come back to us with more information in April.
Yes.
And then, I know this number is going to be really varied. Can we get an estimate of the district's responsibility per pupil, the unreimbursed amount per pupil? And I know that's going to be really different based on all the things you just said, but just sort of an idea of what that would do to our budget, which we're, obviously looking at every time.
Yes, so, yes, we can bring you back that number.
Great.
We'll need a little bit of time, I can bring you back that number.
Yes, if it's a realistic request.
Yes. I think we can do it.
Thanks.
Excellent presentation. Thank you so much. So much to for here. Awesome. What you just mentioned right there in response to Joanne's question, does that cover all the brainstorming you said you were doing on slide 8?
Yes.
As far as opportunities to grow?
So, and the brainstorming that we did at this point was what could we do that would have very minimal fiscal impact? Because, for example, if we needed to add 2 additional students to a program like web and computer programming, for example, where we would need to add a desk and we need to add a computer, what we would bring in an ADA for those students would absolutely offset the cost of that technology. And after a year, we don't need to buy the technology again for several years. And so now it's just allowing us to bring in additional revenue to support that program and allowing us to have additional students in that program. But then we're also looking in some other areas. One of the challenges on the industrial programming side is we do want to keep safety in mind. And some of the things that we do are very dangerous. And so you do want to have a smaller teacher to student ratio when you've got lots of blind spots, for example, in a welding shop or an automotive technology shop, where it's the nature of the work is just different. And safety is one of our biggest priorities at North Tech and South Tech, is to make sure that all students are safe while they're with us. And so those ratios do play a hand in how big can a class be.
I have a question. What's the possibility of taking this Newsweek article and putting something together from North Tech and getting it up to the governor? And I'd say this because he's pushing really hard on all of this type of stuff. I mean, this is his baby. It was his baby when he was running. It's his baby that he's got it, and that this is what he talks about. And I was wondering, I saw the contract for Gamble coming up, who is our lobbyist, who is truly a nice guy who people love up there. Why can't we have him take a copy of the Newsweek article, which gives us even more credibility, get a copy of your presentations, ask him to come on down?
Yeah, it feels like you were in our legislative meeting last week, because we were just talking about specifically that. Career technical education is the one thing that pretty much all political parties seem to agree on. Dr. Lozzi just drove up here from Jeff City earlier today. He was at our state conference where they were talking about the same thing, where universally career and technical education is one of those things that's pretty much a nonpartisan issue. It ties to workforce development, it ties to high quality instruction for students, and really meeting students where they are. So it is a very popular area, and we are looking at how do we get that message in front of the legislative bodies as well as the governor? Because it is very much a
Well,
part
I'm
of the
one of
governor's
the
priorities. Yeah,
Bill Gamble's a nice guy.
Yeah.
We're also paying him.
yes.
Why aren't we using him?
Yes, and we are using him. That's why
Yeah.
we meet with Bill every Friday during the legislative cycle. And he is day to day helping push that agenda forward. He's also the lobbyist for MOACT, which is the Missouri Association of Career and Technical Education. But we're also looking at potentially there's some legislation coming up where we would go testify for information purposes on that legislation, where we can also talk about the impact that it would have on career technical education here at Special School District, and also career technical education more broadly, because they talk about school choice and those types of things. And career technical education was somewhat school choice before school choice was cool.
And kind of took what I was going to talk about a little bit.
Sorry there, Joe.
But
But great minds think alike.
exactly.
So I'm thinking just like you.
I really think the energy that you all bring to this is superb. And your presentation, the energy you put in your presentation. I think this is a key time that we do try to look at how do we take advantage of the climate, political climate, the need we have. We've talked about this before. So how do we expand for meeting the needs of kids? And this is an area that we really have been talking about a lot. The other thing I'd like to do is congratulate Dr. Lozzi on his robotics team at South County Tech, taking third place this weekend and heading to Kansas City for the state tournament. But you don't see all the things they're celebrating, but there's a lot. Thank you again.
Anyone else?
So I think really 2 points. Again, I want to commend Kevin and the team for the work that they are doing. It's truly tremendous. You know, many years ago, tech, career in tech, used to be a option, but for many students, it's the only option. And so really looking at what those pieces and really being cutting edge to understand just the opportunities for space and growth. I think that does bring us back to another conversation, which Kevin's gonna, an April presentation, facilities presentation, but as a board, we need to discuss really what expansion looks like at the end of the day, because I know none of us like weightlifts. And that expansion may have to happen outside of classrooms and moving desks and moving chairs and things like that. So getting those pieces to go from there. And I think the next piece, just today at 3 o'clock, Governor Kehoe gave his state of the state address. And the one thing that was very, very salient through that state of the state address was tech, career in tech. And that highlighted a number of times, and the funding and support that's going to come from those pieces. So I think being able to use that political climate piece for next steps is great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Action items. We'll take up the following action items. First of all, on the purchase of service contract for the Center of Autism. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the calendar revisions?
So moved.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Education business. We have a closed meeting of the Board of Education on January 28th. It's 7 p.m. or when we finish this meeting. This has to be, was there a motion to?
Also February 11th.
And February 11th? I didn't see that one. There it is. Can I have a motion for such meetings?
So moved.
Okay.
I need a roll call on this one.
Oh, I'm behind. Sorry. 1 sec. Sartorius, who seconded?
Dr. Sartorius.
Director Asner.
Yes.
Director Moeller.
Yes.
Director Sartorius.
Yeah.
Director Suda.
Yes.
Vice President Staton.
Yes.
President Cuneo.
Yes. All right, board communications. Anyone want to make?
I know Dr. Macklin's already been congratulated on being in the Newsweek article, but he's actually receiving another award. And so I'd like to congratulate him. The Emerging Superintendent of the Year Award presented by MASA, which is the Missouri Association of School Administrators, just announced that he has been chosen because of the great work he's doing here. I really truly believe he's got a vision and he's carrying it out, and he has wonderful cabinet and teachers working with him, and that makes all the difference in the world. So congratulations.
Thank you. It's always commendable when you can be honored by a committee. Masters truly by your colleagues. So for colleagues to value the work that takes place, it really is about us at the end of the day being great partners. Great partners doesn't mean that the great partners mean at the end of the day that you're ensuring what's needed, that you're able to conversations and you got to move forward. So thank you.
Nelson. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will take 5 minutes and then go into executive session. Thank you, everybody.